Welcome to Cultivating Our Kids, a podcast dedicated to empowering parents with the tools, insights, and resources they need to guide their children toward thriving futures. We're here to help you grow confident, capable learners. Join us as we explore the latest in education trends and career opportunities to cultivate a passion for lifelong learning in your children. Let's build the next generation of innovators, problem solvers, and leaders, one episode at a time.
Today on the Cultivating Our Kids podcast, we're jumping right into a long-term goal many parents have. We want our kids to be successful when they grow up. In recent years, there's been a huge emphasis on STEM education and all the skills and content knowledge that are so important in many careers in our ever-changing world. So today we pose the question, how can we cultivate the seeds of a successful STEM career in our children? Today we'll talk with solar astronomer Tom Schad, joining us virtually from sunny Hawaii. We'll learn about his career journey, what got him there, and we'll reflect on what we can do now as parents to help cultivate those seeds so our kids can be ready with the tools needed to pursue a successful STEM career of their own. Before we jump into the conversation, we'll take a moment to hear from today's sponsor. Appropriately, this episode is being sponsored by our business, STEM Tree of North Dallas. Of course, exposing kids to a variety of STEM fields from an early age is one great way to cultivate a love for STEM learning. At STEM Tree, we offer after-school programs as well as camps when schools are closed. Kids in kindergarten through 8th grade learn robotics, coding, science, and engineering so that they begin to foster an interest and ability across multiple disciplines. Check us out on Instagram at STEM Tree of North Dallas to see the types of things we do. So Tom, welcome to the Cultivating Our Kids podcast. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, Allison. Thanks for welcoming me here.
Yeah. Schools these days are putting more and more emphasis on STEM, even from a very early age. But of course, STEM encompasses so many different fields, and in each field, there's so many specialties that I think when kids hear that ever-present question of our childhood, what do you want to be when you grow up? There's just so many possibilities that they oftentimes don't even know what the choices are out there. So I wanted to bring you on. You're in a STEM field, but you're in kind of a unique specialty that I think a lot of kids and parents probably don't know much about. And I thought we could use your journey as an example to educate people about maybe a little known path in STEM, hear how you got there, and use your journey as a catalyst to help us reflect on what we can do now as parents to help give our kids those right tools so that they can follow those interests and we can set them up for success. So why don't you tell us a little bit about first what you do. Go ahead and tell us your kind of professional, technical explanation, and then I'll have you break it down for us in layman's terms.
Sure. Well, it's very exciting to tell you about what I do because I feel very lucky to be able to do what I do. Starting with a layman's term maybe is I study the sun. I every day look to try to unlock the secrets of what's going on at our sun or in our sun and how that interacts with our solar system. Technically, though, I'm a solar astronomer. Some might call me a heliophysics expert. I'm an observer, so I work a lot with optics. I work with telescopes. I do a lot of instrumentation, a lot of diverse things that's required to study the sun. It's a very dynamic and very cutting edge field where there's a lot of disciplines that come together to do one mission. So a lot of what I do is a mixture of taking new measurements and then also trying to interpret those measurements to learn new things about the sun.
That's amazing. So I did a quick Google search when I saw where you worked in a solar observatory in Hawaii, because I thought to myself, how many solar observatories are there? And if I'm right, the one you work at is by far the largest. Is that right? Tell us a little bit about where you work.
Yeah, that's correct. So there haven't been a lot of new solar telescopes built on the ground in recent decades. However, the one that I work for here on the island of Maui, it's known as the Daniel K. Inouye Solar Telescope. It's the first one built by the U.S. on the ground in 20, 30 years. It's also the world's largest. It's a 4-meter mirror. So it's about a 13-foot across mirror that we point at the sun and collect all of the sun's energy and concentrate it down to a small spot. So it's a very unique facility because we have to deal with all of the heat that the sun gives you, which is very different than nighttime astronomy, where things are a lot less bright. But yeah, it's been fascinating to be a part of this brand new facility that was founded by the National Science Foundation. It's a public facility. It's open to anybody who wants to use it, provided they put in a scientific proposal.
And so what does your day-to-day look like? Take us through kind of a quick, what do you typically do once you get to work?
Sure. Well, one of the things I really like about STEM is almost that every day is kind of different. I often have a lot of projects going on simultaneously, and depending on the needs of those projects given day to day, I might have a particular meeting with a group to discuss some science project or some instrumentation project or some other service kind of oriented project. So I have a lot of collaborations across the globe. Meetings and collaboration and working with people is a key part of it, but also, working on the data itself, working at a computer, trying to develop methods to really understand what we see in the images scientifically. That is a lot of what I do day to day.
And now I want to kind of peel back a little bit to talk first about your education journey. So tell us a little bit about, what did you study? How did you get into such a specific field like this?
Yeah, it's funny how life evolves, and you never know exactly what you're going to drop into. And solar physics for me was definitely one of those things that I never even imagined growing up. I always, I enjoyed being out in the sun. I grew up on a small farm, and I always liked being outside. And the sun to me was that big yellow ball of gas up in the sky. But one thing that I did have growing up was a curiosity and sort of a project-based background. I did a lot of, I did more 4-H projects and taking care of animals and constructing things than I did even what's more traditionally STEM type of projects now. Though my father, he was in the building industry, and also he had a background in science as well. So that helped, cultivate those interests in me. But it wasn't until much later that solar physics became a reality. So I studied and concentrated on all subjects throughout high school. I enjoyed everything, but I had a natural inclination towards sciences and math. And then once I went to university, I started to get into the engineering field. And then I followed into physics, and I actually did philosophy as well. So trying to kind of balance interests and seeing where that curiosity led me. And it just so happened, you as you go throughout that process, you just constantly look for interesting opportunities that are going to keep you engaged. And it happened to be that I was accepted into a position for an internship in Montana, in the city of Bozeman at Montana State University, studying the sun. And I knew, again, even at that point, I knew very little about the sun. And I was very much naive going into that position. But once I got there and I started to interface with those scientists, and the first images of the sun in detail that I'd ever seen before, and to see the sun in a new light really kind of inspired me.
Well, you skimmed over the fact that you went to the University of Notre Dame. This is where we met. I know you said you studied physics and philosophy there. So people might know that Notre Dame's campus looks beautiful on football Saturdays, not so much during the winter where there's no sun to be seen. You're just kind of squinting, going across the quad, trying to not get the wind in your eyes. And then you and I had also studied abroad together in Dublin, where I think when we took a trip out to the Western Islands out there, our professor told us that according to legend, that might be where God created rain, out on the Aran Islands. So I'm just envisioning you spent years, in kind of some gloomy areas. And from that, you decided, I hear there's a sun out there, and there's a beautiful place called Hawaii, and how can I get there? Because it sounds kind of like what you said, going into grad school, it almost like this opportunity to study the sun almost came upon, like you weren't necessarily looking for that. Is that right?
No, exactly. And I don't know. I like to tell people that the story of the places where I have traveled to or studied at has been a series of overcorrections. So I grew up in very hot, sweaty Texas, and I wanted something different. So I went to the University of Notre Dame for many reasons. But of course, Notre Dame is in the snow belt, and we had 60 inches of snow a season, and it was very cold and dim. So after Notre Dame and after Dublin, I overcorrected, and I went to sunny Tucson, where it was 110 degrees in the summer, and you had all kinds of sunshine, but no water. And then I overcorrected from there, and I landed myself in the middle of the Pacific, surrounded by water. So I'm always looking for the next correction in my career.
If you had to pick two or three skills that you think are most important that, say, a middle schooler, high schooler should be cultivating in order that they can pursue a difficult and successful career, what would you say?
Let's see. Well, the first, curiosity is of course very important, and curiosity can be driven from many directions, and it's often fun, and you do want to keep it fun to start with, and you want to stay with that fun. But fun and the excitement, the game aspect of it is a way to pull you deeper, and it's really important in order to succeed later to build that focus. So the next thing is focus. So focus, being able to do something project based where you have an end goal that you're trying to strive to, and you have challenges and you have struggles. That's really important because nothing is going to be easy in the end. Work is always going to be work. As exciting as it is to look at the sun every day and live in Hawaii, I spend a lot of hours really, bashing my head up against the terminal to try to really figure out what's going on. It's a struggle from day to day, but the curiosity is what gets you through those moments. But then beyond focus, I think the next thing is what in the sciences we call a growth mindset. You're not going to become an expert overnight. You're not going to become an expert through undergraduate. I was not an expert at the end of graduate school. You constantly grow and you constantly develop new skills. And that happens throughout your whole life. There's not a single one of us who can understand everything all the time. And we have to build collaborations to understand, things at a deep level, building off of the expertise of others. So, starting with the creativity to motivate yourself, being able to focus on a problem, but then also understanding that you don't have to solve everything right away. That's kind of, I think, the building blocks to really build a STEM career successfully.
And I love that because as parents, we are just, we want the best for our kids. And we're always thinking, what do I need to do now to kind of put them in a good position for next year, for the next school, to getting the good career. And it can feel overwhelming at times. And I love that, you're such an example, and what you shared today is you can cultivate all of those skills in so many different ways during a kid's childhood. And it's okay, everyone asks that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's okay if they don't know exactly, or they might have an idea, and that doesn't mean that as a parent you need to, move heaven and earth to make this happen. It's an initial interest. And more important is perhaps how do you give them those opportunities to focus on those skills you said. You said curiosity, developing focus, working together on teams, collaborating, and things like that. You're a parent. What age are your kids, and what do you try to focus on to kind of give them good building blocks?
So my children are pretty young at the moment. They're 8, 6, and 2, and I focus more on them being good people, trying to get them to be friendly and collaborative and empathetic with their peers, which is always a challenge for all parents. My kids are definitely not perfect in that regard. But otherwise, yeah, for us, I think we really prize those moments where we can show them something new that they'll remember and be impactful. And that's actually one thing that we've read about recently in the sciences, is that a lot of times, children or students who end up in STEM point to specific memories in their past where they were inspired by a particular field that led them to that point of developing that curiosity, cultivating that curiosity a little bit more through study. And those things, for us and for my children, we do go to the aquarium occasionally. We love going to science museums. We love, just letting them experience new things that might in the end sink in, I think is really useful. And, I am trying more and more to actually extend that to other families and other students. I brought my own son in to look at the sun as we were observing a few weeks ago, and he just lights up, never thinking that was possible. And that's something that he talks about now, many weeks after the case. So it really sticks in their minds, and it's something to really think about as a parent, I think.
And that's really all, we can hope to do as parents, so that, like you did, when the opportunities arise, they have the confidence and the tools they need to follow the path where it will lead. And we just don't know right now for any of our kids where that will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my field, one thing that's been shown to be very important is for students to engage with different types of people who work in the sciences. I'm a scientist, and I work on data. I work on nitty gritty science questions, but actually I'm almost the minority in the organization where I'm at. We have a staff that's dominated by engineers and technicians and operators, people who are scientific minded, but not necessarily PhD level researchers. We also have a great number of support staff and administration and business managers and project managers. We also have education and outreach personnel and artists. It's a great diversity of people that really make an enterprise like what we're doing come together. And you might be interested in sciences, but maybe your skill isn't exactly doing the research. But you can still be, think about being integrated in that organization in a different way, such that you can contribute later in life.
That's a great point that I wish maybe I knew more about when I was taking my freshman class on cosmology, and I loved having the homework to go look at the stars, but the math was a little too much for me. So that's a great point.
Yeah, no, everyone's different. I know that every day whenever I interact with my son and my daughter, they're very, very different people. Mm-hmm. So every child is their own.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, share with us not only what you do, but how you got there, and help us think through a little bit, how can we replicate the opportunity for an experience like that with our own kids?
Absolutely. Well, I very, very much enjoyed the conversation. And next time you're in Hawaii, let me show you the telescope.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll just have to plan our flights, but sounds great. Thank you so much, Tom, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Allison.
Hope you enjoyed our conversation today as much as I did. We'll be having more conversations and opening up more dialogue to give us as parents tools to help our kids be successful in a variety of ways. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.